Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Rosie here, and I play Dead by Daylight, so you don't have to. Oh, looks like time for another round of how wrong can we fucking be in 6 minutes? How many times can we just be just wrong, just dead wrong in 6 minutes? Scoot aims to break the record, bruh. How many times can I just be completely fucking wrong about everything I do in 6 minutes? Unbelievable. Unfucking believable here, dude. Just amazing, bruh. Just absolutely amazing how this ideology is still taken seriously. I mean, the only thing I wish is that our arguments were given proper justification. That's the only thing I actually give a fuck about. Like how can you, like, take us this out of context? Like, it's actually incredible. Okay, so Scoot plopped out another disgusting video. Try to ignore it, but this one's just, like, so fucking manipulative. You can't just not go over it if you're a proponent of MMR. It's so fucking manipulative, bruh. It's so, like, he intentionally, the main idea I want to focus on here is that this man intentionally takes our ideas and our arguments, centers them with the most unrealistic premises and the most unrealistic things possible to try to generalize all of us into one group. Okay, that's kind of why he's such a fucking clown, because he is the king of, like, generalizations, trying to lump all of us together. It's just incredible how he gets away with such manipulative language in all these videos, and then everyone walks away and goes, "Well, this guy's got a point." Guys, this guy is dumber than a rock. Okay, all it takes is like 2 brain cells to, like, see through this manipulation. Okay, let's go ahead and go over it.
Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to briefly talk about my experiences with the current MMR test going on so far, and I want to address a huge common counterpoint I see that people that are in favor of MMR usually say. First off, my experience with MMR so far has been pretty uneventful, which I'm happy with, to be honest. My Survivor games, I haven't noticed much of a difference. My Killer games, I haven't noticed much of a difference. Even when I played Killers that I will likely have very high MMR on, like Demo, where I basically only play Demo. Even then, the games had meg heads and stuff like that. To its credit, though, the game had kind of like 2 bad players and 2 actually very good players.
Now, that's been my experience as well, because I think I figured out how they do it, okay? Basically, I think the Killers have an MMR, okay? I think this is how the devs are doing it, because I kind of knew that they weren't going to do it right, because you can't. If you place an actual accurate MMR system in Dead by Daylight, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is the game is unplayable. Not for just top 1% players either. That's another thing we'll get into. Okay, it's not just unplayable for top 1% players. It is unplayable for anybody that is above average. It is absolutely unplayable because because it does not take a top 1% team to exploit the balance problems of Dead by Daylight. Okay, that's another assumption we continue to go off of that's just not actually accurate. Okay, it doesn't take top 1% teams to do this. It really doesn't. What Dead by Daylight is, the skill ceiling of Dead by Daylight is very, very, very fucking low. It is obtainable. This is the game that I played that has had the lowest skill ceiling. Okay, it is not hard to hit peak potential in Dead by Daylight. Okay, it's harder for certain things. It's harder on some killers. But overall, the skill ceiling of this game is very, very obtainable if you play it for an above average amount of time. Okay? So you can hit the level to where the balance starts becoming a problem quickly. You can be at that level quickly. Okay? And why is that like a problem? Because you can, when you get to that point, Killers just stops working, except of course for Nurse Spirit Blight Twins. The Killer as a role just stops working because it's balanced around shit players being in your games. So, Behavior and all their genius knows that. They know that if they put an accurate MMR system in the game, it's not going to work. So, I honestly predicted it was going to fuck up. Okay? And it seems to have. It seems to have. Because the way that it's seeming to work is this has been my experience too. I have been getting a lot of games where I have 2 guys that are some of the best players I've ever played. I had a top 1% player the other day I think it was 2 days ago, that was insanely good. But like one of the best survivors I've ever played, and then there's the base skin in the same game. what they seem to be doing is the killer has an MMR, okay, and then they seem to pick 2 survivors above it and 2 survivors below it, so that the team's average MMR correlates to what the killer's MMR is, okay? That's what they say. Instead of picking 4 survivors that are equal to what the killer's MMR is to get the average that way, they're getting 2 survivors above and 2 survivors below, okay? What does that do? Why is that important? Because it makes sure weak links get in the game, okay? Because if weak links don't get in the game, killer can't function. It doesn't work anymore. And so if your behavior is trying to improve your matchmaking system, like the behavior's goal with this whole thing seemed to be, well, why don't we get one more competent guy in there? You know what I mean? Instead of like one person being the only competent player in there, why don't we get one other solo queue player that's good, and then maybe that'll fix the experience just a little bit. That seems to be what they're doing, because that's been my experience as well with some of the killers I'm at high MMR with. Like the Twins game the other day we had, with that base skin Dwight in it, but then we also had that Claudette that was pretty good. Like, they're giving it duds, and then they're giving, because that's the way the game functions. But that's beside the point.
So if that's how the system's going to work, like if my MMR is 5,000 and I get a 7,000, a 7,000, and a 3,000, and a 3,000, and that's how it averages out, well, I'm okay with, actually, because you just need
because he can make content still. Because that's why. That's why he's okay with that. Because his content's going to remain unaffected by the bad balance. Because that's all he cares about, is himself. He does, like, the game's health is still going to be shit. The survivor experience is still going to be shit. The high-level killer experience is still going to be shit. It doesn't matter, bro. None of that crap actually matters to him or anybody that's in his community. The only thing that matters is, oh, well, is the game fun? Is the game fun? Why can't it be fun and balanced? I don't know. I think it would be more fun if it was actually balanced and killer had a chance against good teams.
Weak link. The problem with winning is when you have no weak links whatsoever. Then it becomes like impossible to win. But I mean, with a lot of killers, not all of them. But if there is even one weak link, well, then it's not a big deal. The thing is, though, if that is how the system works, then it's no better than the current matchmaking system where you're still going to get shitty teammates that are the reason that you lose the game. So I don't even know what the point is there. But either way, I've been not really upset with it. So because I haven't really noticed a difference. It seems a lot of people I've asked haven't really noticed much of a difference too, which I prefer. I kind of like that. I'm glad that I'm not noticing that much of a difference. So
yeah, it just means that those other variables that they're punching in, like I predicted this a long time ago. I predicted that they weren't going to dump that previous system that we had, the one where we were testing it, and I was high MMR with Twins, and it was sweat after sweat after sweat. On that last test, I knew that wasn't coming in the game. That was too accurate. I guarantee you that one was dubbed down. Because just being there, just playing those 5 matches where we went 3-2, I knew that wasn't coming to the game. Because the balance of the game made those matches miserable. Okay? So, they toned it down. I think it's very clear based on that test that they toned down whatever system that they have there previously. I can already tell that they toned it down. So the what other bonus variables? I still simply can't tell you. I'm planning on doing an entire night of Trickster tonight to try to like get up there to see if we start noticing any difference. But like, it seems that they widened everything. Okay, but that's just MMR itself. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the parts you want to hear.
Maybe it won't be that big of a deal, and hopefully that trend continues. But I do want to address one of the main arguing points that a lot of people that are for MMR make, and I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions that is repeated by people that share this sentiment. And the argument that they usually make is MMR is good for the game because it would allow the killers, it would allow the devs to see how killers perform at the highest MMR, and then they can start realizing, okay, that, at this level, very few things on the killer side are actually viable, and survivors are undoubtedly overall much stronger, which is just objectively true.
Okay, so let's listen to that statement again.
Arguing points that a lot of people that are for MMR make, and I think it's one of the big...
He actually gives us this statement, okay? But listen.
Misconceptions that is repeated by people that share this sentiment. And the argument that they usually make is MMR is good for the game because it would allow the killers, it would allow the devs to see how killers perform at the highest MMR, and then they can start realizing, okay, that, at this level, very few things on the killer side are actually viable, and survivors are undoubtedly overall much stronger, which is just objectively true. That
Okay.
is arguing points that a lot of people, that I'm not noticing that much of a difference. So arguing points.
Did you
that a
notice
lot of
where the
people
hole
that are
was,
for
is my
MMR
question.
and I think it's one of the biggest misconceptions that is repeated by people that share this sentiment. And the argument that they usually make is MMR is good for the game because it would allow the killers, it would allow the devs to see how killers perform at the highest MMR, and then they can start realizing, okay, that,
It was at the highest MMR, okay? That's where the hole is.
at this level, very few things on the killer side are actually viable, and survivors are undoubtedly.
It was at the highest MMR. That's where the hole was, okay? I'm trying to give y'all a second to comprehend that. Why is that the hole in the statement? Well, the reason for that is he has limited where the balance issues are taking place, okay? By agreeing to the statement of, well, at the highest MMR it's bad, well, that's not, I don't think that's anyone's real argument. Well, of course it's at the highest MMR it's bad. The arguments that we're making is that it's not just at that highest level of MMR. And that's where we're poorly represented. Because by limiting the balance issues to the highest level, you limit the amount of, people that it's actually affecting, okay? It's not just affecting those top 1% players. It's affecting more than that. Because, I mean, are you really going to sit here and argue that it takes a top 1% team to beat the Legion? Are you really going to sit here and argue that it takes a top 1% team to beat Myers? It doesn't take top 1% teams to beat these fucking weak-ass killers in this game. It doesn't take top 1% teams to even beat some of the Keystones. It doesn't, that tier above the Keystones, and then even the Keystones themselves. It takes top 1% teams to beat 4 characters, okay? Nurse Spirit Blight Twins. Your name is not Nurse Spirit Blight Twins. You can be beaten by people that are not top 1%, just because of core balance issues in the game. Of course, the A tier, it's still a little harder. Less players are capable of beating the A tier. But, all in all, even if you include the A tier, you're looking at a game where over half the roster is affected by balance changes, by balance issues that they affect everybody. They affect these mid-level players. They affect these high-level players. Though the highest level is just the most affected. They're not the only people that are affected. So, by saying highest, it's manipulative language, and it kind of, makes us seem smaller. It makes these arguments seem like they apply to less people than they actually do, which is fucking bullshit. There you go, bro. It's bullshit. And it's already manipulating the viewer to feel a certain way about it, even though it's subconsciously. And by even agreeing to it, it's oh, I'm going to concede you a point. No, you didn't concede shit, because that's not where the issues are.
That is such a faulty argument for a number of reasons. One, it assumes that the devs are just going to suddenly ramp up their production time and start making rapid-fire changes.
Absolutely not. It does not do that. It does absolutely not do that. I don't care about the pace of the changes. If you tell me in a conference the changes are coming, that's all I need. That's all I need to hear. If you tell me in a Q&A stream that you've acknowledged that it's not just the top 1%, there's a lot of balance issues in the game that are affecting lower levels as well. You know what I'm saying? If you acknowledge to me that a long wall jungle gym does not need to be ran by a top 1% player and that a fix for it is going to be coming within the next year and they're going to get rid of every long wall jungle gym from the game, it's going to happen in the next year, I'm fine with that. It's the acknowledgement. It's the acknowledgement that changes are coming, okay? You are putting words in everybody's mouth by saying that. Bullshit. It's bullshit. We're not... every reasonable person is not expecting the fucking devs to speed up. They're fucking snails. We know that. We know that. The devs are incompetent pieces of crap, and then when they do put the changes in, there's going to be an additional 30 bugs they have to get out, too. We know the devs fucking work. Don't tell me I expect the devs to speed up just to make yourself sound like your arguments are better. No. No one's expecting the devs to speed up. Nobody is.
It took them 2-3 years to change Iridescent Head from a 3 to a 1. I don't know why you guys are thinking they're suddenly just going to rapid fire, start balancing all the weaker killers, make them much stronger. It's just, they're still going to work at the same speed that they currently work.
And then he also changed all the killers. Again, this is piggybacking off of another video he made. It's not balancing the killers. I'm not trying to make you balance the killers. I want blanket fixes. I want blanket fixes. You don't need to balance the individual killers. until the keystones are viable. As soon as the keystones are viable, you're golden. You're Gucci. You're golden Gucci, golden goose. Then you can start hitting the individual killers, which will take you down from like 20 reworks to like 5, but again, that's in the past video. So you're still going off of that, and just continuing to assume that that's what people are advocating for, instead of understanding what the act. Like you strike me, Scoot, as somebody who's never read up on anything against your position, for real. Like you heard somebody stupid on Reddit say something, and then that's how everybody must feel, right? No. See, the difference is when I'm going after you, I'm going after you, not every proponent against MMR. I'm going after you specifically in this video. This video's trash.
So that is still, it's going to take so long to even get to that point. The game likely won't even be alive anymore. Like, I'm talking like 5 years down the line for it to actually get to that.
Well, if you told the people 5 years ago that this game was still going to be alive 5 years from now, they probably wouldn't have believed you back then. They really wouldn't have. But this game has done something interesting, okay? Honestly, I don't know if I've ever seen it before. This game has made a generational leap from the previous gen to the next gen. That is unprecedented. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Dead by Daylight has accomplished something that no other game, to my knowledge, has actually done. I guess maybe some other... I guess it's not the most... I mean, maybe Fortnite has done... A lot of these online multiplayer games now, they are making they're making generational leaps, and they're making generational bounds. It's actually getting to be more common the more I think about it. It's not even that Dead by Daylight's impressive. It's just kind of the way of the future. Okay? This game very well could be alive in 5 years. You don't know that. You don't, especially how it leaped from PS4, PS5, Xbox One to Series X. Like, you don't fucking know if this game's gonna be alive. If this game continues to make the leaps from gen to gen to gen to gen, if it's making money and it's still being on Twitch not number one, it's obviously not number one, but like if this game continues to be in the top 20 on Twitch, like it has been since it came out, I don't know, bruh. I don't know if the game will be dead in 5 years. I don't know. And you don't know either. Do I hope the game's dead in 5 years? Absolutely. I hope the game's dead in 5 years. I do. But you don't know if it's going to be or not. So stop trying to make that idea sound stupid in and of itself. The game's already lasted 5 years. Who's to say it can't last another? If the next gen console comes out, what are they going to do? Just stop continuing to support it? They might knock out the servers for PS4. And they might knock some of the lower gen consoles off eventually. But they don't ever have to stop as long as the money's coming in. I don't know why everyone just expects the game to be dead, because that was said on Jay Alla's podcast a while back. The game's obviously going to be dead in 5 years, bro. I mean, Dead by Daylight has lasted longer than Smash 4. Right? I think so. Yeah. Smash 4, a comp fighting game with an Evo scene, died before Dead by Daylight did. Like, who's to say that Dead by Daylight won't continue?
Point. Now, granted, it can be done, in a piecemeal type of way where every patch we get something that's a little bit better, and after several years, now we've got something a lot better with more viable killers and stuff like that.
Fantastic. So we're going to grant that. Well, you see, Scoot, that's what a lot of us are advocating for. The little piece by piece. That's where the blanket changes are. You do the piece by piece fixes, and then in 3 years, your game looks phenomenal compared to where it was. Okay? The thing about games, like a lot of these things that these MMR players, they just want the game to they just want perfect balance. No, we don't. Perfect balance doesn't exist in any game ever. It doesn't exist. There is no such thing as perfectly good balance. There is always going to be something that needs a perfect balance is a system of fluctuation. Okay? It's a system of fluctuation. That's why the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list exists. That's why ban lists exist in TCGs. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if there's any other one that uses... A lot of TCGs use set rotation. That's beside the point. But, fluctuation is my point. That's how you get good balance, is fluctuation. Okay? So, DBD could actually do a fluctuating type of balance system, kind of like a TCG. And it would work. That's what we want. But we're going to brush over that in the middle of the video, which is, by the way, always the part that people forget, the middle of the video. It's almost like manipulative in its setup. We're gonna jab that little tiny part in the middle of the video and then just keep going. But that's what we're advocating for, bruh. The blanket fixes and then killer buffs over time, and then eventually you'll have enough blanket changes to where the keystone killers, who are the killers he's talking about, become viable. Because again, I said this in another video responding to this guy. But it's not that we want every fucking killer viable. Even Identity 5 only has like 10 viable characters. In a roster of like what? They have like 22 now? Or I think Naiad's good. So she have like 11 out of 22. So like 50% of the roster is viable. That's incredible. There's allowed to be bad killers. Of course there is. It's fine. There can be bad killers, the fun killers. Not every killer has to be super strong meta OP, but when there's 3, that's it. It's unhealthy meta. It's an unhealthy balance environment for these high tier players. Which again, obtainable skill ceiling for Dead by Daylight. We already went into that.
But all of this is well and good and stuff if they even wanted to do that to begin with. And here is the biggest counter argument to that whole thought process where you want MMR because it'll let the devs balance for the high ranks now, or the higher skill players, because now they'll have the data to see it. The devs already know that it's like that. They have known that since day one. They have always known that the game is very survivor-sided at the absolute highest level. They know that. They just don't care. They have repeatedly expressed the fact that they don't care about that high level because that's where, 0.1% of their player base is, and they don't want to kill their game by balancing it just for those players. And they've said this numerous times. Even like almost 4 years ago with the whole DPIP squad stuff, the devs made fun of that experiment because people were showing the devs that, and they were going, yeah, no shit, we know that already. We don't care. Like, they were proving stuff that they already knew. And actually, I have a recent clip from...
Okay, so did we find the holes there? We've kind of been going around poking some holes in all this. So did we find the holes there based on what the last holes were? You can kind of already guess if you remember what the first one was. It was the 0.01% part.
Because that's where, 0.1% of their player base is. They just don't care. They have repeatedly expressed the fact that they don't care about that high level because that's where, 0.1% of their player base is.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Did they buff Trickster because 0.01% of the player base can beat him? Is that why they buffed him? Because 0.1% of the player base was capable of beating him, and it takes that caliber team to beat the Trickster? Is that why they buffed him? No, of course not. They buffed him because he was getting beat by everybody. He had low kill rates. They cited the kill rates when they buffed him. He has low kill rates. He's still lower than what we want him to be. That's why they buffed him again. He was given 2 buffs with a citation of low kill rates. So first of all, they cited stats literally in their buffs to Trickster. Okay? Do you think that they're honestly going to change that aspect of their balance philosophy? But we'll get there. That's in a minute. But, you're sitting there saying, oh, well, 0.1% of the player base is... Do you think they're going to make the changes? Why'd they fix the God loops? There are changes that have favored high level before within the game's history. That's because the devs understand the obtainable skill ceiling of the game. Why'd they fix the infinites? Okay? Let's start a little smaller. Did it take 0.1% of the players to run those old infinites back from 2016? No, of course not. Did it take 0.1% of the player base to run those God loops? No, of course not. That's why you get rid of them. Okay? There are other things in this game that are exploitable by non-top 1% players, such as the objective speed for one reason or another. That will be at the tile still. It doesn't take a 0.1% player to exploit the long wall jungle gym, for instance. Or the god tiles in the center. Or that infinite that just opened up on fucking Dead Dog, where the survivors found that immediately. That was found within, 3 days of the infinite, of it being down? They had to shut the map off immediately. Did they shut Dead Dog Saloon off because 0.1% of the players can run that infinite? No, of fucking course not. Because that infinite is fucking brainless. Much like the survivor role in and of itself, it's brainless. Absolutely, 100% brainless. So why did they do any of those changes? Just a quick question. If it's about 0.1%, okay? You can see the changes in the game's history from where it was 5 years ago. Even last year and 2 years ago. You can see a lot of these gradual improvements over time where they have made the game significantly better than what it once was. Okay? If every patch we moved closer to the right direction, that would be all we need. And then we wouldn't have to change the matchmaking system. Because remember, MMR, ladies and gentlemen, is always an unneeded feature if you just balance the game right. You just continue to tweak it and make it better. Again, you don't have to remove every strong loop and every strong thing. You don't have to remove it. There's allowed to be survivor favorite maps as well. I don't ever expect Haddonfield to be a killer favorite map. Ever. I don't ever expect the early game to be killer favored. Okay? But you could remove these things, these more brainless parts of why Survivor is so good and so OP, like the early game. Do you think it takes 0.1% of the player base to exploit how bad the early game is right now? No. No, Scoot. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So why did they make any of those changes if they were doing it for 0.1% of the player base? You can continue to make changes for the core player base, understanding that it doesn't take 0.1% of the player base to exploit them, to exploit the issues that caused the change to happen. 3 days they shut that. They say they shut down that dog in less than 3 days after that Infinite opened up on it. And deservingly so. Deservingly fucking so.
And they don't want to kill their game by balancing it just for those players.
And so again, shutting those god loops down was not balancing it just for those players. And if you think that, you're a fucking idiot. There are continual improvements that they can make. Why they rework any of these killers? Why they rework Freddy? Why they do all this stuff? Once you go in under the assumption that it's not for the top 1% into its entirety, because, like, yeah, do those changes help top 1%? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But it also helps everybody else because the game is still bad at the other levels, which is what we're saying.
And they've said this numerous times. Even, like, almost 4 years ago with the whole DPIP squad stuff. The devs made fun of that experiment because...
And that shows how ignorant they are. That shows how ignorant they are.
People were showing the devs, and they were going...
Who was showing them that? Killermates. A.K.A. not the best survivors in the world. And a lot of those stuff that the DPIP squad actually used and exploited, it's not there anymore. Like the Infinites. Like, that's not there anymore. A lot of those bigger map sizes, like old Pale Rose, where they beat that Myers on, like, Game 3, insane. Insane how that used to be. A lot of perk changes. Didn't they do it with DS? Well, no, they did it perkless one time. Yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah, no shit. We know that already. We don't care. Like, they were proving stuff that they already knew. And actually, I have a recent clip from McLean even confirming this even more. I've never actually had a perfect, actual recent clip of a dev saying this. Well, he's not a dev anymore. Feels bad, man. But here, just right here, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
This is not like casting judgment on the current competitive scene, but now we know that, like, that's not the main focus of the game. Some people are interested in the competitive aspects, and they've kind of taken it upon themselves, and that's cool. Like, I love the fact that there's that scene.
So basically, he's saying that there is actually the devs are not intending for the game to be viewed in that, like, competitive set. I mean, he just, from the horse's mouth, he just said...
No, that is not what he said. He did not... First of all, that clip was like 10 seconds. McLean was probably asked a question and he started getting into it. I would like to see the question that was posed along with his full response and not just a 10-second clip. That's what I want to say about that clip initially. Second, he's talking about the competitive scene. The quote-unquote comp scene. The basement scene. He's not talking about high level. He's not talking about the players we're talking about. He's talking about the basement scene. He's talking about those fucking bitches that sit in their basement and pretend a scene for this game exists. He's talking about those guys. He's talking about those guys that were like, those guys that, like, just made individual rule sets for killers because all killers can't play with the same rules. They're talking about those fucking clowns. Oh, it'd be just too good if twins could do this. So we have to get rid of that on them specifically. He's talking about those fucking clowns. Oh, and like bruh. Of course he's gonna put that competitive scene down and say it doesn't matter because they don't matter. What those idiots are doing does not matter. It still doesn't matter. It never will matter until they have a rule set that works, and then it would at least be tolerable.
That we've realized that that's not what we want to do for the game, which means
he is talking specifically about that subsection of players. That group of that they had a fucking orgasm when they hit over 6,000. Scott Junn hit that total in 3 hours with this video. They had a creamgasm when they hit 6,000 one time. Like that is such a minuscule piece of crap garbage section of the player base. We're talking about the average fucking pub matches where the survivors are exploiting the fucking balance, because the competitive scene, my friend, doesn't exist yet, which is something you're about to go into here.
That's the direction of Dead by Daylight. They don't want to balance towards that high-level competitive scene, with the top percent stuff. They don't want to do that. They've never, ever wanted to do that. So I don't know why you guys that are for it seem to think that they're going to take this data and suddenly change their whole philosophy on their game. They're never going to do that.
If they take the data and change their philosophy on the balance, that would be not listening to it, because they cite the statistics literally all the time. The problem is that the stats don't mean very much with the old matchmaking system. With an accurate MMR system, the data would mean more, so they can do more influenced decisions if they're going to cite it. Because you're like, oh, well, the devs already know that, but they still cite the stats when they do things. So it's either that all those stats that they cite don't mean anything, and they're lying to our faces when they say we're buffing the Trickster because his kill rates are still too low. When they say that's either a complete fucking lie, or the stats are somewhat important to behavior. They mean something to them. Of course, even if they're not the accuracy of the stats is beside the point. It's that the stats influence their decisions. They talk about stats all the time on their Q&As. Almo is a stats whore. Object of Obsession isn't used very much, and the survivors that use it don't escape. Stats. Okay? If you have an MMR system that's even slightly competent and the Object of Obsession escape rate goes up, that point doesn't make any fucking sense anymore. Okay? That's the basic point. It has nothing to do with whatever the basement scene is doing. The basement scene, those fucking players are the worst fucking pieces of shit in the community, because they're the ones that really make us all look bad when we try to fight for real changes in this game.
They're going to see the data. Wow, yes, only 3 killers are in fact getting kills at this rank, or at this, high MMR. Oh well, and then they're just going to move on because it doesn't apply to the vast majority of their player base and where they get their money. It doesn't make any financial sense for them to do that. So
if it doesn't make any financial sense, implies it would kill the game if they did so. That's still an assumption that he's making. That's still just a very big, vast assumption that, it's going to kill the game if we do this. I still do not agree with that. But that's probably about it.
That is just the one main counter argument I wanted to actually talk about. I never actually had an actual recent clip of them proving that they don't want to balance for this target, but I just wanted to share that one at least. Because they don't want to and they never will, and I think rightly they shouldn't ever want to balance for that. This game is very silly at the competitive level, in my opinion. I can see how it's fun. I understand that, but it doesn't change the fact that it is pretty fucking silly with the layers of RNG and stuff like that.
Okay, so yeah, that's him poking fun at the competitive scene, which again, I don't care. If there's anything me and this man agree on, it's that the competitive scene is a fucking joke. Okay, the comp scene, the basement scene, they're a joke. Okay, but like the overall points we're making here, they still hold up 100%. It's not for the vast majority. It's not for that subsection of players. They don't do balance changes. And the changes that they have done in the past, it hasn't been for that subsection of players ever. It's because they understand that the skill ceiling of this game is obtainable, and that the issues in the game are being exploited by more than just those players. Okay. Like a rank 6 survivor used to be able to infinite the rank 1 killer, and there'd be nothing the guy could do about it. Thank God that's not in the game anymore after, of course, you kick the fucking breakables. But that's beside the point. Okay? So I think that's everything that we have to say. This man has used a lot of manipulative language and simplified the arguments against his position, because that's all he does. That's all he can do. That's all he can do, because he knows he can't beat us. So he has to simplify what we're saying, and then people take his word for it because he has 155k subs. Because that's how it works. That's how it works. That man can simplify all your arguments, and then people just agree with them. Trust me, Ots does it too. That's what they do. That's what they do. That's their style. They oversimplify and then get people to take their word for it. Okay? I'm getting the hell out of here. That's all I gotta say. So he even admits that the theory we actually want to happen, at least me, is going to work, which is the small increments over time. Perfect. That's what that can happen, and he has no proof the game is going to be dead in 5 years. So, even I would like to see it vastly improved every single year, but that's about where we stand and how we deal with these arguments. There's no set proof, and that clip was a joke. Yeah, if you're gonna bring up an attack on high MMR, you attack those fucking clowns at the competitive scene that don't represent what true high MMR would look like. Attack those clowns. Yeah, they're a joke, dude. I don't want to hear anything else about Oracle or anything else of these fucking clowns. They're a joke. All right, I'm getting the hell out of here. GG's.